thought the Raiders had more of a chance if Marcus Mariota was under center, because the way this Dolphins defense is playing right now, it's all about protecting Tua, not making him do too much. And so that Dolphins defense is going to have an opportunity to make some plays. I think Marcus Mariota, the mobility of him, which I think you still might see him a little bit incorporated in for that read option, but this Dolphins team can go as far as his defense takes them.
All right. I wanted to linger on that thought that he had there. All right, finally, we've got the first game of the day, Bucs here on NFL Network. Of course, we've got 49ers and Cardinals also here. Arizona back on track after a rough November. Kyler and the Cards can clinch a playoff berth with a win and a Bears loss. Today, they'll be tested by a 49ers defense ranked number 5 in the league. The Niners also get George Kittle back as well. Sean, that going to help him at all?
Well, I don't know if they can complete a pass to George Kittle, so he may have to run the football. You know, they've struggled with keeping quarterbacks healthy this year. Practically the entire roster's been banged up. But really, this game is all about the Arizona Cardinals. It's crazy to think that DeAndre Hopkins was traded. I don't know why anybody would want to ship that guy out, but he has been phenomenal for Kyler Murray. You go back and look at this Week 1 matchup. He shredded the 49ers defense in Week 1 for 151 yards. That was before he really even had any time to work with Kyler. So imagine what he's going to do coming off a career-best game last week against this 49ers defense chain. Without Richard Sherman, without Jimmy Ward, they're banged up across the board. So this is not going to be a walkthrough for Arizona. This is going to be an air shootout. And for Kyler and for DeAndre, they're going to put on a show.
Yeah, just unfortunate when you consider where the 49ers were, the expectations for this year, and where they are now. All right, guys, now we'll get to the first game of the day. Bucs at Lions here on NFL Network at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tampa Bay, 1 win away from their first playoff berth since 2007. Now, Brady and the Bucs have righted the pirate ship in December. Back-to-back wins. They're currently the 6th seed. Let's out at Ford Field in Detroit and say good morning to Sarah Walsh. Sarah, a lot going on there, including the trip that you had. You've already got your hands busy with those adorable twins of yours, but you had quite the flight just getting there to do this game for us this morning.
My flight was not as bad or as long as your flight, so I've got some perspective there. And while I felt bad leaving the kids for Christmas, they've got new stuff to play with. They probably haven't even realized I'm gone yet. As for today's game, Tom Brady can put an end to the second longest playoff drought in the NFL with a win over the Lions today. Brady said this week that he hopes his team is playing at a much higher level starting today because he believes there is a lot left of football to play for this Bucs team. They talked about wanting faster starts. They want a complete game, and now they get a Lions team that is far from whole when it comes to the coaching staff. Interim head coach Darrell Bevell, one of 5 Lions coaches that have been ruled out because of COVID protocols. So their wide receivers coach, Robert Prince, is going to step in to fill those duties for him. Bevell called this week super frustrating, and he said he'll be watching this game somewhere home alone and that he will be far less calm than he would be if he could be in here today. Jane?
Sarah Walsh, like Tom, biggest takeaway from that game. And, you know, when you look at this one, it really felt like it was the Alvin Kamara show.
Yeah, it was. And look, I think everybody's been focused on Drew Brees and his ribs and, you know, can he knock the rust off after having so much time off? But the thing that jumped out at me coming into the game when I saw the inactives, Andrus Peat out at left guard, Nick Easton out as well. So James Hurst is in at left guard. And yet this offensive line didn't miss a beat. Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz in the middle of that offensive line were just, I mean, they were gutting the defense of the Vikings. And to have that kind of option, these weren't Alvin Kamara speed option perimeter runs or getting, you know, we saw a couple of jet sweeps, but this was not perimeter running game. This was, we are going to run right down the middle of your defense. We are going to basically, you know, demoralize your entire squad by just pounding the rock. And on the 5th touchdown highlight, Teron Armstead takes the backside defensive end and plants him into the end zone. I mean, it was a total clinic from an offensive line standpoint. So offensively, for Stella to get her groove back, I think this run game is a great luxury.
I loved the reference there. You know, I think the one thing that stood out for me, guys, is Taysom Hill is such a weapon. When he joined that Saints roster, it was Sean Payton, who said he's got his future quarterback in the building. And we all sort of laughed at the notion of that. Yes, he's a bit of the Swiss Army knife, the can-do-it-all guy. But I think he's more important than ever, given the fact that Drew Brees is coming off that injury. You saw points last night where sort of protecting the ribs. It seemed like there was a small hesitation. His game's so much better than last week. But when you have a larger menu for Taysom, particularly on that 4th and 1 play, he just allows you to extend the drives. I would like to see a little bit more Jameis Winston, though, next week, just so you've got yet another dynamic, another wrinkle to this offense.
Taysom Hill robbing Alvin Kamara of the chance to hold that rushing record alone by taking that 7th touchdown away from him. A little bit of bad news for the Saints. Wasn't all good. Quan Alexander, the linebacker, suffered a torn Achilles, as reported by our buddy Ian Rappaport yesterday. And that is a tough blow for a defense that acquired him and was really thriving off of his energy. This is a guy that had a lot of presence in San Francisco. In fact, the day he left San Francisco, there were some tears shed, including by Alexander, but he had found new life in New Orleans, was really energizing that defense and providing some much needed help on the second level of that defense. So they are going to be without Alexander the rest of the way. This is a really good defense this year, but you want to see how they're going to be able to overcome a loss like that there.
Yeah, G's, you're absolutely right. Not having Quan Alexander in the mix when you thought you'd have him. He is an ultra-athletic linebacker, can really do it all, can stop the run, can drop back in pass coverage. I was shedding a tear knowing that he was going to be out because he is that type of playmaker. But when you talk about this offense, and, I know they rushed for 264 yards, and it was the Alvin Kamara show, but it just didn't quite look like Drew Brees, right? Some of the mistakes Drew was making, some of the things he didn't quite see. He almost threw it right into Eric Wilson's hand if it wasn't for Marquez Callaway, who made a great play as a receiver, looked like a DB out there. So if the Saints are ever short at DB, you can definitely throw that kid on the other side of the football. But I just don't think it's sustainable, right? This New Orleans-style offense is predicated on Drew Brees operating, being super precise with where he's going with the football. And